Good afternoon, everyone. I am here this afternoon to talk to you about my SWOT analysis for my DNP project entitled What to Expect When the Unexpected Happens. As we learned in class this week, our SWOT analysis is basically a tool, a very powerful tool that we utilize to help develop a business strategy or to help with an existing company. In this case, it's helping with our project. And what SWOT stands for is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, as well as threats. So I'm now going to go over all of those different aspects with you and relate them to my project. So let's start out with strengths. So for my strengths, the things that I have noticed coming from my personal organization is I am not recreating an organization, I am working within. I work for Kaiser Permanente, and one of the big strengths that we have in my project, which is to be providing care for patients, care and support for patients who have experienced loss between 420 weeks, so a miscarriage, as well as a stillborn. Any kind of perinatal loss, we want to be able to offer support services to in terms of pamphlets, educational materials, outside resources, and additionally, I would love to be able to provide them with follow-up care in our psychiatric department. Now, where the strength in that comes from is that Kaiser is a very large organization where all of our care is encompassed under one umbrella and under one roof. So we can very easily send that patient from an obstetrics environment and transfer her into the care, and all of her care, all of her data from her loss will follow into the other provider's hands for them to be able to see what she has recently gone through, so that all of her medical records stays together and the two providers, if need be, can connect and talk to each other in order to provide this patient with the very best care that we can get. We can automatically be able to schedule follow-up visits for this particular patient and make sure that they are seen at 4 weeks, 6 weeks post-loss to ensure that they are coping in a healthy type mannerism after they have experienced their loss, so that they are getting emotional support as well as physical support when they go for that physical postpartum appointment. So a second strength that we have is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are already a bunch of resources out there in the community that are previously existing that offer information sessions, just information as far as what's going to happen to you when you experience a loss, what grief looks like. They offer grief counseling. They offer photography services for people who have lost their babies. These are organizations such as Empty Cradle, Forever Footprints, Nesting Instincts, Angels Born Still, Angels Born. There are a variety of them out there to speak of that we currently work with, as well as could potentially work with in order to enable to provide these resources for patients. An additional strength is that on my unit, and specifically, we do have several nurses, several providers that have already been bereavement trained. I am one of them. So I've already been through the training that is offered through some of these organizations to be able to make sure that our nurses know how to compassionately care for these patients. And yet an additional strength of mine is that I have been on both ends. I have been on the giving end as a nurse, working in the emergency department, as well as working in the labor and delivery environment with patients who have experienced loss. And I have been on the opposite end as a patient and know what it's like to either receive or not feel like I've received all of the support that I need in those various instances when I have lost my own children. So secondly, we're going to look at weaknesses. What are some of the weaknesses? Well, for starters, there's going to be the weakness as far as approval. So this is going to be, Kaiser Permanente is a large organization and they love to make things very streamlined. So to be kicking this off at one location only and trialing it is fine, but trying to roll it out at all the other organizations may be difficult. So one of our weaknesses in that is that we may not be able to have the support, as much support as I would like to have, as far as making sure that there's consistency across the board, ensuring that no matter what location that the patient goes into, whether it be the emergency department, labor and delivery, or the urgent care, that they are getting the proper pamphlets, phone numbers, informational follow-up, as well as after visit follow-up in the actual psychiatric and OBGYN department. So that's weakness number one. Weakness number two is there might be some financial pushback, because now we are going to be utilizing more of Kaiser's resources in terms of, now we need to not only schedule a follow-up visit for them physically, but are we going to be able to schedule a follow-up appointment with them in psych? Is there going to be an inundated amount of patients? Are they going to be able to deal with more quantity as far as volume of patients? Do we have enough providers to be able to handle that? If not, then are we just going to be able to provide them with the written information so that they have those things early on? And thirdly, I would say that it's going to be workflow. Nurses are very good about handling yet another activity, task change on their units, but is it going to be fully supported as far as, are they going to have the time to remember to give all of these different resources to the patients and make sure that these appointments are scheduled? So those will be some of our challenges that we may come to face while we're rolling this out. Opportunities. There's tons of opportunity in this area for growth, which is a plus, because really at this point, any improvement that we can make is is leaps and bounds above where we are right now, because right now there is no information, there's no support offered for these women once they leave the hospital, urgent care, emergency department, etc., etc. They go home to their families, they cry tears, and we never really hear from them again, other than seeing them at their OB appointment, in which case we ask them, so how are you doing? And they aren't going to freely open up and bawl their eyes out to you, even if they feel like they need to, purely because they know that they're there for a physical exam to get checked out and make sure everything is okay. And so they don't always feel comfortable, from what I've heard, expressing what their true emotions are and that they may need additional help. It's also seen as a taboo subject, so people don't even really bring it up or talk about it. Hence why providing these outpatient services over in the psych department, they know that they're there to talk. And so that's an open venue where they will be able to discuss what their feelings and emotions are. Another potential weakness that could incur is the fact that this is going to take some time to roll out and to really see the results of. Will we see them early on? I'm sure that we will. We'll get immediate feedback from those patients who have experienced loss, as far as if they had a good experience or a bad one. But to be able to watch trends and be able to see what a huge difference this has made on a mass scale, we may not see it as quickly as we want to. As far as hospital approval, we will have to get a hospital approval. I've already been told that this is of much interest, so hopefully we'll be able to roll it out at multiple locations eventually. Threats. What are the threatening situations? The threats to our project are, what if the patients don't want to talk? What if we are trying to provide them this information and they're not ready to receive it yet? We may have to tweak the way I'm doing things and not only give out this information when they arrive in one of those urgent settings, and start providing it right off the bat when they check in for their 6-week appointment, so that it may be in a binder, but at that point, is it being forgotten? So those are some of the threats to our project. Do people not arrive to the appointments that we preset for them because they just don't want to talk or they're not ready to yet? Those will be some challenges that we'll have to find out if they're existent or not once we finally start rolling this out. And then out of all of these, what is the most important component of them all? It's my belief that the most important of all of these are the strengths. We have to work with our strengths, and we are only as weak as our weakest strength, because if we can learn from our mistakes, then improvements can be made, and nothing ever goes off without a hitch the first time, or traditionally it doesn't. So we should expect mistakes to be made. I think that the strengths will really help me in my project, in the fact that I know my organization, I know what services we offer, I know a lot of the leaders, to try to make this as successful as possible. And I look forward to receiving your feedback in hopes that you will be able to assist me with making this dream of mine, to be able to provide these services to women and their families all over the place, a reality. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.